Do you know much about the Blackbird?
No, please tell.
Still the world's fastest aircraft. It holds the records for the speed and height for a production aircraft with air-breathing engines. Obviously, rocket-powered things can go higher and faster, but these engines need air to burn, just like in a normal airliner. So it has to fly in Earth's atmosphere, and it has sort of pretty special, but they're jet engines. So basically, no conventional aircraft has flown higher or faster. And the one we're standing under holds the height record, 85,069 feet.
The actual.
This one actually holds the height record.
That's awesome.
When you think an airliner flies around 34,000 feet, 85,000 feet. So you're right on the edge of space. And that record was set in 1976, in July 1976. 1976 was the American bicentennial year, and they wanted to try and set a couple of aeronautical records. So this one went for the height record and got it, and a sister ship, the same one, the one that's in that picture, where that gent standing looking at the guys with the flag, there's an aircraft behind them there. That's a sister ship of this one, and that's the aircraft that got the speed record. So the speed record is 2,193 mile an hour. So that's 3,200 feet per second. So the aircraft actually flies faster than a rifle bullet.
Wow.
Yeah, you need to get your head around that. It's,
Oh my god, crazy.
give you a hypothetical example to put it in context. If you had a high performance rifle and you pointed it in the direction of Athens in Greece and fired, if the bullet was able to maintain its muzzle velocity for the whole journey all the way to Athens, and a Blackbird started at the same time with it, the Blackbird would get to Athens 5 minutes before the bullet. This aircraft could get from London to Edinburgh, on a flying start, London to Edinburgh, 10 minutes.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty
That
quick.
beats commuting.
It's pretty quick. Now,
Wow.
the downside of that,
What is its range at that speed, though?
3,000 miles.
It will do it at that speed?
It could do 3,000 miles, yeah.
Yeah.
We're talking 3.2, 3.3 times the speed of sound.
Wow.
So, but
That's
they would never go for a long distance.
Yeah.
Because the aircraft was built to be air refuelable, and what it would do, it would keep topping up with fuel.
Yeah.
And it burnt a special fuel because it flies so high and it gets so hot. They had to find a special fuel. It doesn't burn the same fuel that other jet aircraft burn. It's a more sophisticated fuel, because normal jet fuel, at those temperatures and the low pressures, it wouldn't be robust enough to burn. So it even needed a special fuel. But the big problem with the aircraft when they designed it, because travelling at those speeds, the friction through the air is tremendous. The whole aircraft gets really, really hot. I'll give you an example of some of the temperatures when it's cruising. The leading edge of the wings, 430 centigrade.
Yeah.
Around the cockpit area, 600 centigrade, and around the engine is 900 centigrade on the body, the fuselage. Incredible temperatures.
How do they come around that so you can be in it?
They wear spacesuits, plus the two inside the cockpits. They're two completely separate cockpits. They're not. There's no way from one to the other. They're totally separated, and they're sort of cooled and air conditioned. But then the guys wear spacesuits, and they're plugged into the aeroplane. The aeroplane will sort of circulate. Keep them cool. Basically.
Is it true they leaked when they were on the ground?
They did, because anything that you heat is going to expand.
Yeah.
So yes, it would heat up and get bigger. It grew by around 4 inches. The whole aircraft grew by around 4. Yeah, it's big. It's 107 feet 5 long, so it's a big aeroplane.
But that's quite a distance, isn't it? For only 100 feet, really, it's quite a lot. Yeah. If your building did it, you'd be worried, wouldn't you?
Yeah. So they built it with expansion joints. That's why it looks loose everywhere, because it is. And also these grooves that run along the aircraft, and they're on top of it as well. That's to allow for expansion. A little bit of strength, also expansion. So that would encourage it to expand in the right direction and then go back to the right sort of shape.
Yeah.
And the problem with the fuel tanks, a fuel tank is just a welded metal box. So how can you have that when it's going to expand and contract? It's going to split. So they built it with expansion joints and seals. But the seals were never all that successful. They'd never really mastered that. No. So the aircraft would leak fuel. But what they would do, the aircraft can hold 60,000 pounds of fuel in weight. which is a lot. Now you'd never take off with that amount of fuel on board, because you'd need run about 10 miles long. Basically, they would take off with sufficient fuel on board to visit the first tanker aircraft. But what they do, they take off and then they go high and they go fast, get the aircraft heated up, heat the airframe
stretches
up,
out,
and it would seal. It was more sealed when it was hot than when it was cold.
Yeah.
So basically, they would take off, and they'd know where the tanker was. The tanker would be pre-positioned on its route wherever it was going to do its reconnaissance take. So the aircraft would take off, he'd do a dash to get the aircraft hot, and then he'd drop down, visit the first tanker, top up the fuel, and then climb again, go know where the next tanker is, and they would have pre-positioned. Let's say it was going up to the Barents Sea during the Cold War to look at the Russian submarines from Mildenhall. He'd take off, say, do what I've just suggested. He'd visit tanker after tanker that were all pre-positioned in its path, and then he'd go up, and by the time he got to the reconnaissance area, he would have pretty much 4 tanks, and that gave you more flexibility,
more time.
Yeah,
more,
exactly.
Yeah.
So he would then do his reconnaissance take, and then he would visit a number of tankers on the way back.
Yeah.
Because you wanted to recover the aircraft back. If it's out of Europe, you want to recover it back to Mildenhall rather than have to put it in somebody else's base.
Yeah.
Because if one of these turns up, people notice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So come along here.
That's neat.
I mentioned it's titanium. This leg, this is forged titanium, and that was made in 1964. And that is, at the time, that was the largest piece of forged titanium ever produced. And I wouldn't be surprised if that still stands good today.
Wow.
Oh, I bet. That's not going to degrade, is it? That?
No. And I mentioned these grooves all the way under the aircraft long ways. They're on top of the aircraft as well. And this is the interesting thing. This skin here, this is the top skin of the aircraft. So that's the top of the thing. This is the bottom of it. So here, where the undercarriage is attached, the aircraft's only that deep. If you look through, you can see little chinks of light coming through up there, and you're actually looking through there to the ceiling of this building.
Oh yeah.
So look how narrow, how thin the aircraft is at this point.
Wow.
It's a beautiful aircraft. It's definitely my favourite.
It's one of mine, yeah.
And it was pure reconnaissance.
Yeah, no armament whatsoever.
Nothing's going to catch
No, that's right. That's right. They reckon that well over 1,000 missiles were fired at it in its time from the ground, but it would. They had a defensive suite on board that would actually tell them if they're being lined up for a radar guided missile or whatever. And basically, all they would do is they just outrun it. They just go a bit faster. And the Russians didn't have an aircraft that could catch it. The closest the Russians had, they had a high performance interceptor called the MiG-25 Foxbat, but it wasn't made of titanium. It could do short dashes at Mach 3, but this can do Mach 3 for 90 minutes at a time, but the Foxbat couldn't. So if you try to fight the Foxbat, it'd be like something out of a cartoon. The pilot would be sitting there, and the aircraft would be like melting around him, you know.
Yeah.
So it was totally invulnerable.
Wow.
To go where it wanted. Really.
Well, thanks very much for
You're
showing
welcome.
us around.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.